أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 25, Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayah 183 to 188. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed. Kutiba alaykumus siyam, decreed upon you is fasting. Kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, as it was decreed upon those before you. Why has it been decreed upon you? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may become righteous, so that you develop taqwa. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. All of the believers are being addressed over here. Which believers? Who are these people? What have they believed in? Those people who believe in all that is necessary to believe in. All that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to believe in. So those who believe in Allah, His angels, His books, the Day of Judgment, the prophets, the decree, and everything else that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated, including the unseen. So all you people who have believed, all you people who have iman. And remember that alladhina amanu applies to all of the believers. No matter how old they are, no matter what background they're of, no matter what their gender is, man, woman, child, older person, sick, healthy, able, disabled, any kind of person, as long as he is a believer. Every single believer is being addressed. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. And what is the command? That kutiba alaykumus siyam. Fasting has been prescribed for you. As we learned earlier, that kutiba literally means it was written, but when it's followed by ala, then it means when something is made obligatory, when something is decreed. So siyam, fasting, has been made obligatory upon you, meaning it's a must upon you. You don't have any choice. And who is it that has decreed this command upon you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kutiba alaykumus siyam. Fasting has been prescribed upon you. The word siyam is from the root letters sad, waw, mim. And siyam is the plural of the word sawm. And what does sawm mean? Fasting. Sawm and siyam both mean to keep a fast. And literally, the word sawm means imsak. What does it literally mean? What's the literal meaning of the word sawm? Imsak. What does imsak mean? To stop and refrain from something. What does it mean? To stop and refrain from doing something. Such as we learn in Surah Maryam that when Isa alayhi salam was born, Maryam alayhi salam went back to the people. What was she told to say? That say to the people, if anybody tries to talk to you, you say to them that inni nadartu lirrahmani sawman. I have vowed for the most merciful a sawm, meaning I am fasting. And this fasting of mine, what am I stopping myself from? Falan ukallima al-yawma insiya. Therefore, I will not speak to any person today. So we see that sawm is to stop, it is to abstain, it is to refrain from doing something. Whether it is talking, or it is eating, or it is drinking, whatsoever. This is the literal meaning of the word sawm. But it has to be something that a person's nafs is inclined towards. Meaning a person wants to do it. There's an attraction in that particular action and he wants to do it. There's a particular enjoyment. He wants to do it. Sawm is to stop from doing that action. Like we have the urge to eat, to drink. But what does sawm mean? You don't eat. You don't drink. So this is the literal meaning of the word sawm. Khaylun siyamun. A khayl, a horse, that is siyam, that is fasting. What does it mean by that? In its literal sense, it means a horse that is standing, that is not sitting, it is bound, it is tied up, it does not have the freedom to go around. Also the Arabs, what they would do is, in order to train their horses for battle, for life in the desert, they would keep them hungry and thirsty. Why? To increase their endurance, to increase their stamina. Because life in the desert is very difficult. It is very harsh. You could be traveling and all of a sudden there's a sandstorm and that's it, you're gone, you're finished. Or you're traveling and you're lost and you have no water, you have no food, what are you going to do? So life in the desert is extremely difficult. With hot weather, the burning sun. So in order to train their horses, in order to build their stamina, the Arabs would keep their horses hungry and thirsty, and they would make them run against harsh, hot winds. Why? To develop their endurance. So this is the literal meaning of the word sawm. To refrain from that which a person wants to do. Why? To develop endurance. This is the literal meaning of the word sawm. And technically, in the Sharia, in the Islamic law, what is fasting? Fasting is to show servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? By leaving anything that breaks a person's fast. And anything that breaks a person's fast, the term for that is muftirat, from futur. So fasting is to show servitude to Allah by leaving the muftirat from the beginning of Fajr until the setting of the sun. So in other words, it is abstention from food, drink, and sexual relations from early dawn until sunset. And remember that throughout this time, a person has the intention of fasting as well. It is done, a person abstains from eating, drinking, and sexual relations. How? With the intention of fasting. You can't say, okay, I'll just stay hungry. No, you're not just staying hungry. You have the intention of fasting. And why are you doing it? For the pleasure of Allah. To show servitude to Allah. It is ibadah. So, kutiba alaykum as-siyam, fasting has been prescribed upon you. Kama, just as, kutiba, it was prescribed upon who? Ala alladhina min qablikum, upon those people who were before you. Who were the people before us? Alladhina min qablikum. Alladhina min qablikum refers to the previous nations. So all of the previous nations that have passed before you, all of the people of the prophets, such as the people of Musa alayhi salam, or the people of Isa alayhi salam, or the people of Nuh alayhi salam, any prophet, his ummah was commanded with what? With fasting. So, O you Muslims, you have also been given the same command. So fasting was prescribed with all the nations before the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, it is not necessary that their fasting was in the same manner as our fasting. It is possible that the fiqh varied. It is possible that they were allowed to do certain things which we are not allowed to do, or they were not allowed to do certain things which we are allowed to do. Their manner of fasting, their time of fasting was different. But fasting was prescribed upon every single ummah. Now the question is, why is this mentioned over here? That fasting has been prescribed upon you just as it was prescribed on those people before you. By mentioning this, there is reassurance and comfort for the Muslim ummah. That we do not say that we have been obligated with something that is so difficult, and other people before us, they were spared from it. They were not supposed to do it, and we have been obligated with a command that is so difficult. You see, this is psychological. When you find out that somebody is doing the exact same thing that you're supposed to do, what happens? The work becomes easy. And if you know that you're the only person doing it, then it becomes very difficult. So, when a person is told that you're not the only one, you're not alone in this, then it becomes easy for him to accept the command. It becomes easy for him to endure. And it also gives him encouragement. If they can do it, I can do it too. Fasting is one of those actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves a lot. And He prescribed it upon the people before us, and He has also prescribed it upon us. He has also made it obligatory upon us. And He is mentioning this over here to show to us that anything that is beneficial for you, anything that is good for you, anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes, anything that is a big virtue, you, O Muslim Ummah, have been bestowed with that. You, O Muslim Ummah, have been commanded with that as well. So it shows that anything that was best for the people, because it was commanded to every single Ummah, anything that was best for human beings, it was also given to the Muslim Ummah. We learn that fasting is one of the best deeds that a person can perform. Why? Because a person stays away from food, he stays away from drink, he stays away from fulfillment of his sexual desires. Why? For the love of Allah, for the pleasure of Allah. And therefore, there's a hadith that is mentioned in Sahih Muslim and various other books of hadith in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, he narrated that Allah's Messenger said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that every good deed of the son of Adam would be multiplied. A good deed receiving a 10-fold to 700-fold reward. Meaning every single good deed that a person does, how many times is it multiplied? From 10 to 700 times. But with the exception of fasting. For it is done for me, and I will give reward for it. Any other good deed that a person does, the reward for it is multiplied from 10 to 700 times. But fasting is an action that is not just given the reward of 10 times or 700 times, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a special reward for it. Why? Because when a person fasts, he abandons his passion and food for my sake. He abandons his desires and his food for whose sake? For my sake. So when he does it for me, then I will reward him. I will not just reward him with 10 or 700 times more, but I will reward him with a special reward. The hadith continues that there are 2 occasions of joy for the one who fasts. A joy when he breaks the fast, and a joy when he meets his Lord. A joy, a pleasure when? When he will meet his Lord. And this is mentioned in Sahih Muslim. So this is mentioned over here that kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, because fasting is an action that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. He prescribed it for people before, and He has also prescribed it for the Muslim Ummah, because He loves this act of worship. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can adopt taqwa. What does لَعَلَّ mean? The reason, the wisdom behind this command is what? That you develop taqwa. What does it mean by لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ? This has been understood in several ways. First of all, it has been said that you develop taqwa. You develop the fear of Allah. You develop the consciousness of Allah. Secondly, it has been said that لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you save yourselves. Save yourselves from what? From committing sins. What happens? When a person is fasting, he stays away from fulfilling his basic desires. Eating, drinking, sexual desires. And when a person is able to control these desires, these temptations, then he is also able to control other desires. He is also able to control other temptations. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So what do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn about the obligation of fasting. Because Allah says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. It is an obligation. It is mandatory. A person doesn't have any choice with regards to this. Secondly, we learn about the importance of fasting. It is an obligation, but it is also a very important obligation. Because who has been addressed? Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu. O you people who have believed. Thirdly, this ayah tells us about the importance of taqwa. It tells us about the importance of taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed, has made fasting obligatory. fasting of an entire month, 30 days or 29 days. Why? So that we develop taqwa. Imagine how important taqwa is. That 30 days or 29 days, a person has to fast so that he can develop taqwa. So this shows to us that a person has to strive, has to put in some effort to develop taqwa. It cannot just appear in the heart out of nowhere. No. A person has to do something to acquire taqwa. And is taqwa important? Of course it is. Because if a person does not have taqwa, he cannot benefit from the Quran. Because it is hudan lil muttaqeen. It is a guide for those people who have taqwa. Also, we learn from this ayah about the wisdom behind fasting. The wisdom of fasting has not been prescribed upon us to keep us hungry or to keep us thirsty, but fasting has been prescribed upon us. Why? So that we can develop taqwa in our hearts. We can live the life of a muttaqi. This is the wisdom behind fasting. We see that the entire life of a believer, it is a fast. Why? How? What is fasting literally? Imsak. To stay away, to abstain from doing something which a person wants to do. And if you look at it, the entire life of a believer revolves around what? Staying away from those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. And doing those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded. And this is what? Ibadah. This is worship, which is manifested in several ways. So, for us to do ibadah, for us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for us to be able to live a life of obedience to Allah, Allah has prescribed fasting upon us. Allah has assigned an entire month of fasting upon us so that we are trained, so that we get the training of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the rest of our lives. If you look at it, when we're fasting, what are we staying away from? Our two greatest desires. Our two basic desires. What are they? Eating, drinking, and secondly, sexual desires. They're natural desires. And we have the urge to fulfill them. They're called shahwa in the Arabic language. And shahwa is a desire that is natural. I mean, you don't have to tell yourself to be hungry. You don't have to tell yourself to be thirsty. It's a natural desire. It's from within. So these desires are natural. And when we're fasting, we are told to stay away from fulfilling them. If a person can gain control over these two desires, if he can discipline these two desires, then he can discipline the rest of his life as well. Every time you want to eat something, like, no, I'm fasting. Every time you want to drink something, no, I'm fasting. So the next time that you want to utter a lie, what is going to come to your head? No, I can't lie. Every time you want to break a promise, no, I can't break the promise. Every time you don't want to pray, no, I cannot not pray. I have to pray. So fasting, the month of Ramadan, is a time of training. It is a period that trains us, that builds our endurance, that builds our stamina. Remember the horses? The Arabs would keep them hungry, they would keep them thirsty, they would make them run against harsh, hot winds. Why? To develop the stamina to bear the difficult life of the desert. Just as we stand in Qiyam in the month of Ramadan, and we need to fast in order to build our stamina so that we can live the life of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that the path to Jannah is surrounded with difficulties. It is not easy. You need to be strong. You need to have some endurance. And that endurance, that strength is built through fasting. It is gained by fasting. So over here we learn that the purpose of fasting is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may obtain taqwa. Previously we learned in Surah Al-Baqarah, entire mankind was commanded to worship Allah. Why? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you adopt taqwa. And fasting is a form of worship. It is a part of worship. Even when we're sleeping, our digestive system is still active. It is still working. Why? Because there's always some food, there's always some liquid, there's always something that we have eaten, even if it's a small candy. Something small. Always the stomach is busy digesting something, processing something. But when you're fasting and you stay away from eating for so long, then finally your stomach gets some rest. And all of that energy of your body that is going towards your stomach is now directed to the head, the brain, the heart, so that you're able to concentrate on other things. Previously we were told, kulu, eat. Now we're told, don't eat. Why? Because as human beings, it is our natural desire to eat and drink. And we put in so much effort to eat and drink, cook food, prepare food, what to eat, what not to eat. And this time of the year, this month, don't even think about eating. You're freed from even thinking of eating so that you can focus on more important things. Just imagine when we're not fasting, what happens? You think about, okay, breakfast, snack, lunch, tea, dinner, tea, snack, and then bed. But when you're fasting, suhoor, aftar, and then maybe a snack before going to bed. And the rest of the day, during the day, you're free. Literally, you're free. You don't have to worry about the kitchen. You don't have to worry about eating. Because even if you do cook beforehand, it's not going to be hot. It's not going to be, nice and warm. So therefore, you try to cook right before the iftar time. You have your daytime to focus on more important things. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. What else have you learned from this ayah? This month is a month of training. Why? Training for what? Training for ibadah for the rest of the year. Because in this month, we're not focused on eating, we're not focused on socializing, we're focused on what? Ibadah, reading the Quran, and praying. Isn't it these three things that we're focused on in this month? So when you can focus so much on your ibadah, on your recitation of the Quran, on your salah, why can't you focus on these three things for the rest of the year? And once you get used to it, once you develop the habit, or once you realize that you can actually do it, then it encourages you for the rest of the year to continue these habits as well. If you can fast for the entire month, you can fast once a month. You can fast once a week. If you can stand in prayer every single night for like 4 hours, for 2 hours, you can stand in prayer for at least another 30 minutes, maybe for the rest of the year. So this month is a month of training. This month trains us, it gives us taqwa. Because taqwa is essential for a believer, so that he can live a life of obedience for the rest of the time as well. Many people, they don't focus that much on ibadah. Many people, they don't even bother to pray regularly. But when the month of Ramadan comes, then what happens? It's a reminder. The month of fasting is in itself a mercy because it is training for us. He hasn't just left us, okay, build your strength yourself, build that stamina yourself. No. He has prescribed it upon us. We have no choice. It's a drill. We have to go through it to develop that stamina and endurance. And also if you look at it, fasting is not just about staying away from eating and drinking. Like the hadith that is mentioned in Al-Bukhari, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah does not require someone who does not abandon lies and acting by them while fasting to abandon his food and drink. Allah does not need the fast of someone who is just staying hungry and he's continuing in his sin. The objective of fasting is not to stay hungry, but it is to develop taqwa, to develop fear of Allah, to stop sinning, to become more righteous, to become more obedient. Let's listen to the recitation. أياما معدودات. Fasting for a limited number of days. Ayyaman is the plural of yawm, from the root letters ya, waw, mim. And yawm means day. Ma'dudat is the plural of ma'duda, from the root letters ayn, dal, dal. Adad means number. And ma'dud is that which is numbered. that which is counted. Anything that is numbered, anything that is countable is limited in its quantity. It is less. It is only a few. It is only some. So ayyam ma'dudat, numbered days, meaning only a few days. A specific number of days. They're countable. You can count them. You can number them. You don't have to fast every single day of your life, but fasting that has been prescribed upon you is that fasting which is for ayyam ma'dudat. So kutiba alaykum an tasumu, fasting has been prescribed upon you. When? Ayyam ma'dudat, for a few number of days. Now why is this mentioned over here? Again, to comfort the believers, to give assurance to the believers, that you have to fast, but only for a few days, not throughout the year. Just as when you go to the doctor for some treatment, or when you're taking some treatment which is very difficult, which is very painful, what are you told? Only a few more sessions. Only a few more minutes. No pain, no gain. They tell you these kind of things. Why? To keep encouraging you, or to comfort you. It's not too bad. You can do it. It's only a few more days left. So ayyam ma'dudat, meaning fasting is not prescribed on you throughout the year, or on weeks on end, or months on end, but rather, it is only for a few days. And what are those few days? The month of Ramadan. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ, then whoever was among you, meaning among you believers, whoever is during the month of Ramadan, maridan, ill, أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, or on a journey. So whoever is sick, or he is traveling. The word marid is from mim radad, and marad, as you know, is used for illness. And it is said, shamsun maridatun. The sun is marida, meaning it is sick, it is ill. What does it mean by that? That it is not giving proper sunlight. Something is obstructing the light. Like for example, very thick clouds or dark clouds that obstruct the sunlight from reaching you. So when something is not functioning properly, when something is not functioning as it should be, then that particular thing is called what? It is marid. It is suffering from marad. So whoever among you is marid, meaning he is suffering from some illness, أو على سفر, or he is traveling. Safar, from the root letter sin fara, and it is said that safar literally means to reveal something, to expose something. For example, safaratil mar'ah, it is when a woman unveils her face, when she exposes her face. So safar is a journey. Why? Because on a journey, what happens? What happens when a person is traveling? He is exposed. How? How is he exposed? You really get to know a person when you travel with them. How do they react when they're hungry? How do they react when they're thirsty? How do they react when things don't go as they want them to? Travel exposes the reality of a person. That is why travel is called safar. So whoever is sick, or he is traveling, and because of that sickness, or that travel, he is not able to fast, then what should he do? He should not fast at all? No. فَعِدَّةٌ, so same number. Iddah is from the same root letters as ma'dudat, min ayyamin ukhar, from other days. You see the word ukhar? Same root as akhar. So he should fast some other days, and he should complete that number. So for example, if a person has traveled during the month of Ramadan, and he's traveling for 5 days, and during those 5 days he's not able to travel, or he becomes sick and he's not able to fast for 5 days, then what is he going to do? He is going to complete that number at another time of the year. He has to complete the number of the fasts. He cannot say, oh, I was sick, so it doesn't matter. No. He has to complete the number. So we see over here that in the previous ayah, every single believer was addressed. That Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. Every single believer, fasting is prescribed upon you. And believers included those who are sick, those who are old, those who are traveling, those who are at home, every single believer. Over here, the exception is being given. That if a person is unable to fast due to illness or travel, then he should not fast and he should make up the fasts afterwards. There is a rule, there is a principle in our fiqh, in the Islamic fiqh, which is called al-mushaqqatu tajlibu at-taysir. That difficulties, a difficult situation, demands leniency in the application of fiqh. When the situation becomes difficult, then there should be some leniency when it comes to applying the law. For example, if a person is sick and he's not able to stand in prayer. For example, he has broken his leg or his knee or his foot and he's not able to stand. What is he going to do? He's still going to stand? No. The situation demands some leniency. Therefore, the person is allowed to sit and pray or to lie down and pray, whatever is possible. So similarly over here, if a person is sick or he's traveling, he cannot fast, then he should not fast, and leniency has been given. But the question is that what type of sickness is this and what type of travel is this? When is a person allowed in his illness to leave fasting? When? What type of illness is this? We see that there are different levels of illness. There are different levels of being sick. The first level is that a person is sick, and if he fasts, then fasting is not going to harm him, and it is also not difficult for him to fast. For example, you just have a very slight cold. So in this situation, if you fast, fasting is not going to harm you because you're not really taking any medication, and it's not difficult for you to fast either. It may be a little uncomfortable, but it's not really difficult. So in this case, the sick person does not have permission to leave fasting. There is another level of illness. And what is that? Fasting is difficult for the sick person. But fasting does not harm him. It is difficult for him, but it does not harm him. So for example, a person has a cold. It's not very slight, it's not very minor. He has a headache and he has a runny nose. It's difficult for him to fast. It would have been convenient if he could drink, something warm or something hot the entire day. But if he fasts, he's not going to die. It's difficult, but it's not going to harm him. In this situation, fasting would be makruh, it would be disliked, because it is not appropriate for a person to leave the allowance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. So in this situation, it would be disliked, but if a person fasts, then there is no problem. He's not committing a sin by fasting in such a situation. Another level of sickness is that fasting harms the sick person. If he fasts, it is going to harm him. And in this situation, it would be forbidden, it would be haram upon a person to fast. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clearly in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 29, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not kill yourselves. So anything that leads to death, or anything that leads to something that could cause death, then such a situation, such an action becomes haram. For example, if a person fasts, then it would delay his recovery. He's so sick. He's unable to move. He doesn't have any energy. He is iron deficient. He's on very strong medication. And if he does not take that medication, if he does not eat and drink, he's completely dehydrated. What is going to happen? His recovery process is going to become prolonged. It is going to become very delayed. Or, for example, if he fasts, the illness increases. The illness increases. The sickness increases. Today, a person's iron is low to a certain level, and tomorrow it becomes even lower. So if fasting harms a person in that it delays the recovery, or that it affects the recovery, or that the illness increases, or it leads up to death, then in this situation a person is not allowed to fast. For example, a person is taking a particular medication and he's supposed to take it every 4 hours, every 3 hours, every 5 hours. He's supposed to take it in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. How can he not take the medication? If he does not take the medication, it's going to affect his recovery. And it's going to worsen his health. So in this situation, a person is prohibited from fasting. He is not allowed to fast. And remember that in every situation, a person should think, where do I fall? In which category am I? And then he should decide. And we know ourselves. You know when you have a slight headache and you have a severe cold and you're suffering from a fever, you can decide for yourself. And remember that the third level of illness in which when a person fasts, it harms him. In this case, it would be forbidden for a person to fast. When a person does not fast even, what is he doing? He's obeying the command of Allah. Remember that. In this situation, when a person does not fast, what is he doing? He's actually obeying Allah. Because if he fasts and that leads to his health becoming very worse or become very bad, it worsens his sickness, it worsens his illness, what is he doing then? He's disobeying Allah. So if he does not fast, why? Because he's obeying Allah, even that would be an act of worship. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests people through different ways. He puts people in different situations. The essence is obedience to Allah. Remember, bir is not just about outward rituals. Righteousness is not just about observing outward rituals. Righteousness is about obeying the command of Allah. And the command of Allah could be to do something or to not do something. So this is with regards to the sick person. What about travel? What kind of travel is it in which a person is exempted from fasting? Basically, the scholars have said that it should be such travel or such a journey in which the person is shortening his salah. He is performing qasr salah. When a person is traveling a long distance, not within his city but outside his city, once he leaves the population in which he is living and he enters another population, then he can perform or he should perform qasr salah, in which the salah is going to be shortened. So for example, for dhuhr salah you pray 4, shortened salahs you pray 2. So any journey in which a person is performing qasr salah, then on that journey he is allowed to not fast. Just as there are levels of sickness, similarly there are levels of traveling as well. For example, the first level is that the travel does not bring any difficulty to a person when he's fasting. The traveling does not make it difficult for a person to fast at all. The difficulty of fasting is exactly the same as the difficulty of fasting when fasting at home. It doesn't make a difference. For example, you're only going to take a 30-minute or an hour-long flight to another city within the country. 30-minute flight. What does that require from you? That travel, what do you have to do? You have to go to the airport, sit in the plane for 30 minutes, get out of the airport, and that's it. Sometimes the car journey is longer than the plane journey. So if the difficulty of fasting in travel is the same as the difficulty of fasting at home, then in this case it is better to fast. However, if one does not wish to fast, he is not blameworthy. If he does not wish to fast, he can also leave the fast. If he fasts, it would be better. But if he does not fast, he is not blameworthy at all. And the evidence for that is, there is a hadith that is mentioned in Al-Bukhari in which Abu Darda radhiyallahu anhu, he said that we once went with Allah's Messenger during Ramadan while the heat was intense. Now remember that the heat would also be intense at home. One of us would place his hand on his head because of the intense heat. And only Allah's Messenger and Abdullah ibn Rawaha were fasting at that time. So we see that some people were fasting and some people were not fasting. So if the difficulty of the travel is not intensified because of fasting, then it is permissible for a person to fast or not fast. Similarly, Anas ibn Malik, he said that we used to travel with the Prophet ﷺ, and neither did the fasting persons criticize those who were not fasting, nor did those who were not fasting criticize the fasting ones. They considered it to be a choice. You have the choice to fast or to not fast. And this is reported in Bukhari. So this is the first level of fasting. Another level is, the second is, that the travel makes it difficult for a person to fast. But it doesn't make it too difficult. It doesn't make it very difficult. There is greater level of difficulty in fasting compared to the difficulty that a person would have at home. But there is some difficulty. It's not that bad. In this situation, it would be better for a person to not fast. And the evidence for this is the hadith that is mentioned also in Bukhari, in which Jabir radiallahu anhu said that Allah's Messenger, he saw a man who was being shaded by other people while traveling. A particular person, he was being shaded by other people while he was traveling. And the Prophet ﷺ asked about him, that who is this, what's going on? And he was told that that man was fasting. He was fasting. And because it was so hot, that's why people were shading him. So that shows that some other people were not fasting. But for him, it was difficult to fast. So the Prophet ﷺ said, it is not a part of bir to fast while traveling. So if traveling makes it very difficult for you to fast, then it is better that you don't fast. The third level of traveling is that the travel brings great difficulty and hardship upon a person if he fasts. If he fasts, it would be extremely difficult for him, it would be extremely hard for him. And in this situation, a person should not fast. And the evidence for this is the hadith that is reported in Al-Bukhari, in which Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam set out from Medina to Mecca, and he fasted, meaning he was fasting, till he reached Usfan, where he asked for water and raised his hand to let the people see him. So he openly picked up a container or something in which there was water, and he raised it up so that everybody could see him. And then he broke his fast. And there were some other people who did not break their fast. And when the Prophet ﷺ found out about them, he said, those are disobedient. Those are disobedient. Those are disobedient. He said, such people are disobedient. Who? That it is so difficult for you to fast when you're traveling, so much so that the Prophet ﷺ broke his fast, and they are continuing to fast. So we see that there are levels of fasting. One is that fasting at home and fasting while traveling is exactly the same. It doesn't bring any hardship on a person. In this situation, a person is encouraged to fast, but if he does not fast, he's not blameworthy. The second level is that traveling does make it difficult for a person to fast, but it doesn't make it too difficult for him. The level of difficulty is just slightly more than that which a person would face at home. And in this case, it is better for a person to not fast. And the third level is that it is extremely difficult for a person to fast while he's traveling. In this situation, a person should not fast. And if he fasts, then he's disobeying. How is he disobeying? He's disobeying Allah by not benefiting from the rukhsah, from the allowance that Allah has given. When Allah gives you a concession, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something easy for you, benefit from the ease. Take it, accept it. Even when Allah has obligated something upon us, He commands us only that which is in our best interest. There is allowance, there is ease, there is facilitation when it's in our interest. What else do we learn? What else do we learn? One more very important thing so far. If a person is sick or he's traveling, then what should he do? What does the ayah say? فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Then he should fast the same number of those fasts that he has missed on some other days. What does that show? That we have to complete the number of the fasts. We have to complete the number of the fasts. And as for the missed fasts, a person is required to fast one fast for each fast that he has missed. It's not 2 fasts for each day that you've missed. It's 1 for 1. And also when a person is making up his fasts, it's not necessarily that he has to fast consecutively, meaning one after the other. He can spread them out throughout the year. Min ayyamin ukhar. And notice ayyamin, this is nakira, any other days. So if Ramadan falls in the summer and you make up your fasts in winter, it is allowed for you. Or if Ramadan falls in winter and you make up your fasts in the summer, that is also allowed for you. Because it's any other days. Ayyamin ukhar, any other. Whatever you want, whatever is easy for you, whatever is convenient for you. As long as it is within the next year. That is better. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ. And as for those people who are able to do it, who are able to fast, fidyatun, then there is a fidya for them. And what is that fidya? طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. Feeding a needy person. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ. The word يُطِيقُونَهُ is from the root letters ta, waw, qaf. And يُطِيقُونَهُ has been understood in 3 ways. It has been understood in 3 ways. Before we go into the meaning of the word يُطِيقُونَ, I want you to understand the meaning of this particular part of the ayah. That upon those people who are able to fast but with difficulty, then what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to give the fidya. To who? To miskeen. And what is that fidya? What is that ransom? What does the ayah say? Ta'amu miskeen, feeding, meaning 1 meal to a needy person. The word yutiquna is from ta wa qa, and it has been said that first of all, yutiquna is from ataqa, yutiqu, from the word taqa, which means ability, strength. So yutiqunahu means they have the ability to do it. They have the strength to fast. What does it mean? They have the ability to do it. They have the strength to fast. But they choose not to fast. They just don't want to fast. They have the ability, they have the strength, but they don't want to fast. So in this case, what are they supposed to do? They have to give a fidya. And what is fidya? A ransom that a person gives in order to free himself. So fasting is an obligation. We have to do it. If you don't wish to do it, then what do you have to do? You have to give the fidya. Now what does it mean by this? Can you do this today? You're able to do it, but you don't want to fast, so you just give fidya? No. We learn about this ayah that Salama ibn al-Aqwa, he said that when this ayah was revealed, those who did not wish to fast used to pay the fidya. Until the following ayah, which is ayah 185, was revealed, abrogating this ayah. So we see that this ayah was revealed at the beginning, initially. That fasting is prescribed upon you, and if you are able to fast, but you do not wish to fast, then you have to give the fidya. So you have 2 choices, either fast or give the fidya. No other choice. This was in the initial stage. And then later on, it was abrogated by the following ayah, which said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. So this is one way of looking at the ayah. Secondly, it has been said that the word yutiquna is from the word tawq. From the word tawq. And tawq is used for a neck collar, a neck brace. When there is a neck collar around the neck, what happens? It becomes difficult for a person to move around. He is able to do things, but with a lot of difficulty. He can barely do them. He has to put in a lot of effort. One of my teachers, he had to wear a neck collar on his neck, and he was our math teacher. And when he would be looking at our work, checking our work, he couldn't look down. So he would have to lift up the book. He would have to lift up the notebooks. And he had to wear it because the whole time he would have his neck down, and it was really hurting his neck, so the doctor told him to wear the neck collar. So when you have something around your neck, it's difficult for you to do your daily things. You can't even look down. How are you going to wash your hands? How are you going to eat your food? You can't even look down at your food. So, yutiqunahu, what does it mean then? The second meaning of this is that those people who do it with a lot of difficulty. They fast, but with a lot of hardship, with a lot of difficulty. For example, there's a person who is very ill, or there's a person who just loves eating and he cannot even think of not eating. Or, for example, there is a woman who is pregnant. She cannot stay without eating for 12 hours, for 13 hours, for 15 hours. She has to eat. Similarly, a mother who is nursing, who is breastfeeding her baby, in the initial stages, if she's feeding every 2-3 hours, she's going to run out of energy completely. She's going to become dehydrated. Similarly, there are people who are very sick, or there are people who are old. So because of their sickness, because of their old age, because of their travel, what happens? They're not able to fast. So fasting is extremely difficult for them. And if they do fast, they're not able to do anything else. They're just going to be at home, they're going to be in bed, they're not going to move, they're not going to do anything. So for such people, what do they have to do? They have to give fidyah. However, this opinion has not been accepted by many scholars. Why? Because we know that this ayah was revealed at the beginning. And يُطِيقُونَهُ means they are able to do it because there is hadith that is supporting that opinion. A third opinion is that what it means by وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, before the word يُطِيقُونَ, there is an implied la. What does la mean? Not. So la يُطِيقُونَهُ means they are not able to fast. And this opinion has also been rejected. Why? Because you cannot just say there's a la or there's not a la. You have to have some evidence to support that opinion. There is no evidence to support this opinion. Therefore, out of these three opinions, what is the strongest? The first one. Those people who are able to fast, but they don't wish to fast, so they can't just not fast, they have to give the fidyah. فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا, but whoever voluntarily did any good, تَطَوَّعَ from the root letters ta, waw, ain, tar, which means obedience. We did this word earlier as well. Whoever voluntarily does anything good, فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ, then it is better for him. What does it mean by this? Whoever voluntarily does any good. This is understood in two ways. That first of all, he fasts happily and willingly. Because what is mentioned at the beginning? عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ. They are able to, but they don't want to fast. So whoever voluntarily, happily, willingly fasts, that is better for him. Secondly, it has been said that تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا, this is with regards to the fidyah. What is the fidyah for missing one fast, for not fasting? طَعَامُ miskin. Giving one meal to a needy person. So over here, if you give more fidyah than that which is mandatory, it is better. So for example, a person says that I will give 2 meals to the needy person. I will not just feed one needy person, I will feed 2 needy people. So Allah says that is khayran, that is better, lahu for him. Meaning doing the extra good is better for him than not doing the extra good. Then Allah says, وَأَن تَصُومُوا, and that you all fast, meaning you choose to fast, or you at least try to fast despite the illness, خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, it is better for you. إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if you only knew. What does it mean by this? That if you fast, it is better for you. If you fast, if you choose to fast, or if despite the difficulty, despite the hardship, you fast, that is better for you. How is it better for you? It is better for you with respect to reward and with respect to result as well. Than what? Than giving the fidyah. Because initially the believers were given a choice. Either you fast or you give fidyah. Here they are encouraged. If you fast instead of giving the fidyah, that is better for you. In kuntum ta'lamun, if you know. What does it mean by in kuntum ta'lamun? This is a new sentence. That if you know that fasting is better for you, then you should fast. If you know the reward of fasting, then don't leave fasting. Fast. Let's listen to the recitation of this ayah.
أياما.
Choose the best option. You know, when we learn that when we're traveling and you're allowed to not fast, which is definitely a permission, which is definitely an allowance, what do? Even when the travel is very easy, we say, okay, never mind. Or even if we are very slightly ill, we choose not to fast. It is permissible. But what does Allah say? وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. If you fast, it is much better for you. Much better. When it comes to the matters of dunya, we want the best option. But when it comes to the matter of deen, we should also choose the best option for ourselves. Some scholars have said that yes, although this ayah is abrogated, however, the second opinion that I told you about, that other scholars have considered weak, they said that it is still applicable today. For who? For those people who fast with a lot of difficulty. For example, there is a person who is very old, 75 years old, 80 years old. They're not going to become younger. They're not going to get their energy back. How are they meant to fast? So they cannot fast. And when they're not going to fast, they have to give the fidya. When you see people who are not fasting, don't just pass your comments and your judgments and decisions, oh, he's not fasting. There could be a reason. You don't know what illness that person might suffer from. Some people are on a particular medication which they have to take several times a day. And they cannot do without taking that medication. If they leave that medication, it's going to affect their recovery process. It's going to affect their health adversely. So, if you find out about a person who is not fasting, then don't just make judgments and pass them. Allah has given the allowance. For giving the fidya, you have to give the food. So, it could be the actual food or the money for the food. As long as it is understood that it is for food. And remember that miskeen has been used, right? Miskeen is someone whose needs are unfulfilled. And the scholars have said that when only the word miskeen is used or only the word faqir is used, then it can refer to either. Some have said that miskeen refers to a person who does not have enough to provide for his food for a whole year. And others have said that faqir, it refers to a person who does not have enough to get his food for even half of the year. For half of the year, he doesn't have any food. He doesn't have the ability to buy any food. So if you give money to such a person, what is he going to do? Is he going to go buy clothes for himself or food for himself? Food. But in particular, it should be for food. That over here, the word ta'am has been used. And remember that the word ta'am is used for food, meal, because it includes liquid, it includes water, and it also includes solids. So, what it means by ta'am over here is an entire meal. And that entire meal should be equivalent to something that you yourself would generally eat. It shouldn't be something like just a sandwich that is only an appetizer for you. What you would generally consider a meal for yourself, that is what you give as fidya as well. One meal for one meal. So either breakfast or lunch or dinner, suhoor. For each fast, it is one feeding of the needy person. What do you have to do if you miss one fast? Either keep one fast or feed one needy person, one meal. Within 1 year, for example, if a woman is pregnant or if a woman is breastfeeding or a person has been very sick and he's unable to fast, then what is he going to do? He is going to try to make up the fasts that he has missed within the year. If he is unable to make up the fasts, what is he going to do? He can just tell, I'm not going to be able to fast. For example, a woman knows, I just got pregnant. For the next 9 months, I'm going to be expecting. I cannot fast within that time. And after that, I'm going to have my baby. I cannot fast within the 3-4 months after I have my baby. So it's not possible for the woman to fast within the 12 months that follow. So in such a situation where a woman can foresee that she's not going to be able to fast within the year, then she should give fidya. But the fidya does not exempt her from making up the fasts afterwards, as we will learn in the following ayahs. Unless if it's a situation in which a person is chronically ill or a person is extremely old and there is no way of him recovering, no way of him ever being able to fast again, then in that case, fidya is enough. And if a person has given fidya and he becomes healthy afterwards, then he should make up the fasts. And this is something very important that we all should think about. If we haven't made up the fasts that we have missed, try to estimate the number of fasts that you have missed and make up. I know of a lady who in her late 60s learned about this. And she said that when she was younger, she went to a boarding school where there were no Muslims, and they would never keep fast in the month of Ramadan. Never. There was no concept. So she estimated the entire number of fasts that she would have to make, and even now, she tries to keep fast whenever she can. She has given the fidya, but she tries to make up the fasts that she has missed. So, keep a record, because it is an iddah, it is a specific number. Then Allah says, Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, is which month? الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ. It is that in which the Qur'an was revealed. And what is the Qur'an? It is هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ. It is guidance for people. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. And clear proofs of guidance and criterion. This month, Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. Shahru Ramadan are the ayyaman ma'dudat. Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, is the numbered days. It is the specific days in which we are supposed to fast. Previously we learned that you have to fast when? Ayyam ma'dudat. Which are those ayyam ma'dudat? Now Allah tells us it is the month of Ramadan. Shahr is from the root letters Sheen, Ha, Ra. And the word Shahr applies to a lunar month. What does it mean by lunar month? Islamic month. Also, lunar month. How do you determine the beginning, the ending of the month? By the sighting of the moon. It's not your January, February. It's the lunar month. So Shahr is used for a lunar month, which is either 29 or 30 days in length. And Shahr is the time period between two crescents. مَا بَيْنَ الْهِلَالَيْنِ. From the birth and sighting of a new moon to the birth and sighting of the next. The time period in between is a shahr. It is a month. Because remember that when you sight the crescent, when you see the new moon, what does that mean? The new month has begun. The new period has begun. And when eventually the moon, you cannot see it anymore, and then when you see the moon again, when you see the crescent again, that means the next month has begun. So the time period between two crescents, from the birth and sighting of a new moon to the birth and sighting of the next, that is a shahr. That is a month. And this period is generally 29 or 30 days long. And why is it called shahr? Because of its ishtihar. What does ishtihar mean? To publicize something, to make it known. So when the new moon is sighted, when it is seen, people announce. People make it known. So the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is from the root letters Ra, Mim, Dad. And the word Ramadan is an ism alam. What does it mean by ism alam? It's a proper name of something. Nouns are of different types. You have the name, you have the place, you have the animal. So, the name, which is the proper name of something, that is what ism alam is. For example, girl is just a noun. But Maryam is a proper name. It's an ism alam. Similarly, shahr is just a noun. But Ramadan is a proper name. It's an ism alam. And it's a proper name of the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. And it is the only month that is mentioned by name in the Quran. What does it literally mean? Ramd literally means shiddatul harf. It means extreme heat, scorching heat, burning hot. This is the literal meaning of the word. It means to roast something. Or it is when animals, they pasture on burning ground, extremely hot ground. You know, sometimes if you're wearing very thin sandals, or sometimes if you're barefoot, and you step on a ground that is extremely hot, sometimes when you go to the haram, when you go for umrah, and you go in the courtyard to do tawaf, and if it's extremely hot, if it's the middle of the day, literally, your feet burn. It's that hot, you cannot put your foot on the ground. It becomes very hot sometimes. So, Ramadan literally means scorching heat, burning hot, extreme heat. And Ramadan is called Ramadan because when the month of Ramadan was given its name, at that particular time, it was extremely hot. It fell in the summer, just like now. And remember that the months that we know of, the Islamic months, they were given their names before the Prophet ﷺ. They were given their names before the Prophet ﷺ. And others say that Ramadan is called Ramadan. Why? Because in this month, a person's sins, they are burnt. So the month of Ramadan is alladhi, is that which unzila fihi al-Qur'an, is a month in which the Qur'an was revealed. So we see over here the virtue, the importance, the excellence of this month. Why is it important? Why is this month chosen? Because this is the month in which the Qur'an was revealed. This month is special. This month you must fast because this is when the Qur'an was revealed. Now what does it mean by the fact that the Qur'an was revealed in this month? Does it mean that the entire Qur'an was revealed in this month? No. Because if you think about it, the Prophet ﷺ got wahi in Ramadan, he got it in Shawwal, he got it in so many other months. So what does it mean by this? This has been understood in two ways. First of all, it has been said that this means that the Qur'an was sent down in its entirety from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to the Bayt al-Izzah. Where is Bayt al-Izzah? In the first heaven. And Lawh al-Mahfuz is where everything is recorded. Everything is written. So, the month of Ramadan was when the Qur'an was revealed in its entirety from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to the Bayt al-Izzah. And then from there, Jibreel brought it to the Prophet ﷺ as per requirement. However, this opinion, which is ascribed to Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu anhu, so if you hear of this opinion, it is weak. It is reported in Al-Hakim, but it is weak. It has been said that the correct way of understanding this is that the month of Ramadan was the month in which the Qur'an was revealed, meaning the process of revelation began in Ramadan. This is when the revelation of the Qur'an was initiated. As we learn in Surah Al-Qadr, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Indeed, we have sent it down in the Laylatul Qadr. When does the Laylatul Qadr come? One of the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So, over here, what does it mean by Unzila fihi al-Qur'an? The month in which the Qur'an was revealed, meaning the process of revelation began in this month. And why was the Qur'an revealed? Hudal linnas, a guide for the people. Notice the word annas has been used. It is a guide for all people. And remember that the Qur'an has two types of hidayah in it. The first type of hidayah is hidayah of ilm. The Qur'an educates everyone. There is ilm in the Qur'an for everyone. A believer can learn the Qur'an, a non-believer can learn the Qur'an, a hypocrite can learn the Qur'an, a munafiq can learn the Qur'an. Anybody can learn the Qur'an. People can learn, people can study the Qur'an and know it cover to cover. They can pass all of their assignments. They can get 100% on all of their tests. But this is what? Only ilm. This is just knowledge. This is only hidayah idrak. And this type of knowledge, remember, it is useless. It is a burden, in fact, upon a person. If, remember the if. It is useless and it is a burden upon a person if it is not followed by amal. If it is not followed by action. So the second type of hidayah that the Qur'an has for us is that of rushd. It is of tawfiq. That when the amal of the person changes according to the teachings of the book. Remember, when you study the Qur'an, don't just study the Qur'an with the intention of, okay, I should study, I should learn, I should memorize, I should also know, I should also pass all my tests, I should also get a diploma, I should also get a certificate, everybody's doing it, I should do it too. No, that should not be your intention. Your intention should be to get hidayah. Which hidayah? Of amal, of tawfiq from the Qur'an. Not that I know, okay, what the translation is, what the meaning is, when this was revealed, when that was revealed, when this command was given, what this command means. No. That is just information. And remember, information is irrelevant if it is not applied. It is useless if it is not applied, and it becomes a burden upon a person. Once you study the Quran, to benefit from the Quran, to implement the Quran, remember your outlook will completely change. You will enjoy the Quran. It will not become a burden anymore. Memorizing the translation will not become a chore anymore. Because you're looking at the reward, at the benefit, not the work. So Quran is hidayah for who? Linnas, for the people. But the people, they only get knowledge from the Quran. Who is it that gets amal from the Quran? Tawfiq from the Quran? The believers, the muttaqeen. Which is why we learned earlier, it is a hudan for who? Lil muttaqeen, because they are the ones who benefit. And the Quran is also وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى, and clear proofs of guidance. Meaning in the Quran, there are clear proofs of guidance. Remember the word bayinat is a plural of bayina, which means a clear evidence, a clear proof. And what it means by bayinat is ayatim bayinat. Clear signs, clear evidences. So in the Quran, there is not just hidayah, there is not just guidance, there is not just knowledge, but there are also clear evidences and clear details that elaborate that guidance, that elaborate that knowledge. Which is why in the Quran, we're not just told about what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. We're told about the wisdom behind the commands. We're given the commands with encouragement to act upon the commands. Ayatin bayinat min al-huda. And in the Quran, there is also wal-furqan and the criterion. What does furqan do? It differentiates between right and wrong, truth and falsehood, beneficial and non-beneficial, beneficial and harmful. The Quran gives a person the ability to tell between what is good and what is bad. It builds that criteria inside. It gives the person the conscience with which he can tell between that which he should do and that which he should not do. Remember, you cannot be told about every single thing. Okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, and don't do this, 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 this. You cannot be given a list. You have to have that criteria inside. That ability within you to be able to decide whether you should answer back or whether you should keep quiet. For example, in the Quran, we are told, do ihsan with the parents. That's the command that we have been given. Has the instruction been given, do not answer back? Have these words been given? No. Have these words been mentioned? No. But when we are told to do ihsan, automatically, what do we understand? Shouting at them is incorrect. Screaming at them is incorrect. So, the Quran, it tells us what to do, and it also builds the criteria inside of us that enables us to decide in different situations what we should do and what we should not do. What we must adopt and what we must abandon. And this only comes after hidayah. Because notice, it is hudal linnas, bayinat min al-huda, and then finally furqan. Furqan only comes when a person gets hidayah. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ, then whoever witnessed among you the month. Shahida, from the root letters sheen, hadal. Shahada means witness, and it also means to see something. So shahida, meaning he saw, he was present, he witnessed it, he got to know about it. About what? About the month. Which month? The month of Ramadan. And what it means by ash-shahr over here is the new moon of the month, the hilal of the month. So whoever finds out about the new moon, about the crescent, that it has been seen, it has been sighted, then what should he do? فَلْيَصُمْهُ, then he should fast it. It meaning the following month, the following day. And notice the lam over here, fal. This lam, it doesn't mean surely. It has a sukoon on it. And this lam is called lam of amr. It is an imperative. Then he must fast. So this part of the ayah, this is what abrogated the previous verse. This is what abrogated the previous verse. that now you don't have the choice to fast or to give fidya. No. When you know about the beginning of the month of Ramadan, then you must fast. One thing I want you to notice over here is the word shahida. Shahida, shahada, means to witness something, to see something. So what it means by shahida is that whoever sees the new moon, the crescent himself, or he finds out that it was seen, it was sighted. And remember that in the context, what it means is that it was sighted while the person was at home, meaning in his home country, where he's living, in his city, locally, it was sighted. Why? How do you get this meaning? Because the next instruction is about those people who are traveling. So the opposite of traveling is what? Being at home, being in your own locality, locally. So فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever sees the moon, meaning while he's at home, then what should he do? He should begin the month of Ramadan. He should begin fasting. So we learn from this part of the ayah that the sighting of the crescent marks the beginning of the month. And when the person gets to know about the sighting of the new moon of the month of Ramadan, then fasting becomes fard upon him. There is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, do not fast for Ramadan before the coming of the month until you sight the moon. Until you sight the moon. Do not begin fasting until when? Until you see the moon yourself. And if you cannot see, then what should you do? Complete the number of 30 days. Then fast until you sight the moon or complete the number of 30 days. So once the moon has been sighted, begin fasting. If the moon has not been sighted, then complete the month of 30 days. So the area in which the person is, the locality in which a person is, locally, if the moon is sighted, then it becomes incumbent upon the person to begin fasting. And if it has been sighted elsewhere, in another continent, in another place, then it does not apply to him, because he's not over there. This is just as you begin your Fajr Salah when? When the time of Fajr Salah enters the place where you are, not when it enters another place. Similarly, you begin Zuhr Salah, the time for Zuhr Salah enters where? Where you are. And you pray Zuhr Salah over there, at that time. Not when the time of Zuhr Salah enters another place. So we learn from the hadith that begin fasting when? When you sight the new moon. And if you don't sight it, then simply make the month of 30 days. That's it. And remember that it is not necessary for every single person to see the moon himself. Even if one person sees the moon, then one person's testimony is enough. It is sufficient. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا. And whoever was ill, أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, or upon a journey. Whoever is ill, or upon a journey. So you see now travel is mentioned. Then what should he do? فَعِدَّةٌ, so same number, مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, from other days. And this has been mentioned in the previous ayah as well, that whoever is traveling or is sick, then what should he do? He should not fast in the month of Ramadan. He can fast other days of the year. And remember that over here when this command is mentioned, this is not a mere repetition. This is to clarify that yes, the previous command was abrogated, but the rukhsa, the allowance, was not abrogated. That is still applicable. The same allowance is applicable. The same discussion that we went through, the levels of illness and the levels of travel, they're still applicable, which is why the command is repeated over here. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ, Allah wants, bikum, for you, al-yusra, the ease. Allah wants ease for you. Yusra is from the root letters, Yasin, Ra. Allah intends ease for you, which is why He has permitted you to not fast when you're traveling or when you're sick. وَلَا يُرِيدُ, and He does not want, bikum, for you, al-usr, the difficulty. Usr is from the root letters, Ain, Sin, Ra. Allah wants ease for you, and Allah does not want difficulty for you. How does He not want difficulty for you? How? That He did not make it mandatory upon you to fast, regardless of the situation that you're in. He has given you the allowance of not fasting during the illness or while traveling. But again, a person should make sure that he completes the number of fasts that he has missed. So we see over here that the deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, it is easy. The commands that have been given to us, they are doable. Meaning it is possible for a person to follow them. It is possible for a person to observe them. It is not impossible. He can fast for the entire month of Ramadan. It is possible. Allah tells us, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not overburden a person more than what he can bear. And remember that wus'ah, ability of a person, is what he can do easily in normal circumstances, without putting in much effort. So Allah wants ease for us, and He does not want difficulty for us. The Prophet ﷺ said, يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا وَأَسْكِنُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا. Treat the people with ease and don't be hard on them. Give them glad tidings and don't fill them with aversion. But sometimes we say that no, even fasting is difficult. We say, no, even memorizing the lesson is difficult. So we should not be told to memorize a lesson. No, 7 times is too much. Once, enough. But the thing is, you might find it difficult, but it is not impossible. People have done it. People are doing it. You did it before. You can do it now. So, by yusr, it doesn't mean simple and nothing. It doesn't mean simple and nothing. But what it means is possible. It is doable for you. It is not impossible for you. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ. And you should complete the number. Notice the wa over here. This is connected with yuridu. He wants ease for you. He does not want difficulty for you. And what does He want? And He wants that you all complete the number. And He wants that you complete the number. لِتُكْمِلُوا, again this li, it gives the meaning of should. And tukmilu is from kaf, mim, lam, from the word kamal, which means to complete or to perfect something. So He wants that you should complete the number. Which number? The number of the fasts of that particular month. So remember that if the particular month of Ramadan in which you were not able to fast, if it was 29 days, you're supposed to complete the number of 29 days. If it was 30 days, then you're supposed to complete the number of 30 days. So basically, each fast that you have missed, you just make up those fasts. وَلِتُكَبِّرُ اللَّهَ. And you all magnify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ, over what He has guided you. And this is also connected with He wants. لِتُكَبِّرُ is from the root letters kaf, ba, ra. Takbir, kabir, what does it mean? Great. And takbir is to proclaim the greatness of someone. Over here, tukabbiru, you proclaim the greatness of who? Allah, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we do takbir of Allah? How do we proclaim the greatness of Allah? How? In 2 ways. By qawl, by lisan, and secondly by amal. How do we do it by qawl? By saying what? By saying Allahu Akbar. So, upon the completion of the month of Ramadan, what is the following day? Eid. And what do we do on the day of Eid? We say the takbirat. Which is why when you go to the masjid is echoing with takbir. So, لِتُكَبِّرُ اللَّهَ, you glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you magnify Him how? By saying the takbir on the day of Eid. And secondly, that you glorify Allah, you magnify Allah how? With your amal. That you really feel yourself small, you consider yourself small, and you consider Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be much greater than you. And this is the essence, this is the result of fasting. When a person fasts, he develops taqwa. When he develops taqwa, he realizes his smallness and he realizes the greatness of Allah. When he has this realization, it is easy for him to obey Allah and not to disobey Him. So you should glorify Allah, you should magnify Him, you should proclaim Him to be great. Why? Because عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ, because He guided you. Remember hidayah is of 2 types? So what hidayah is this over here? That first of all, He gave you the knowledge of the rituals of the deen. He told you as to how to worship Allah. He told you as to how to worship Him. He didn't just leave you on your own. And secondly, which hidayah is this? Hidayah of amal. that He gave you the ability to fast. He gave you another month of Ramadan. He gave you another opportunity. There were so many people who got last Ramadan, but they did not get this Ramadan. There were so many people who got the beginning of Ramadan, but they didn't get the end of Ramadan. So once you have completed the month of Ramadan, then what should you do? Glorify Allah, not yourself. Generally what happens when we do something very good, when we do something very big, we consider ourselves to be so great. Yes, I did qiyam the entire month of Ramadan. I completed my entire Quran. I fasted the entire month of Ramadan. I didn't even miss one fast. Subhanallah. Over here, what are we told? لِتُكَبِّرُ اللَّهَ. You magnify Allah. You glorify Allah, not yourself. He gave you the opportunity. He gave you the ability. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And so that you all are grateful. Grateful for what? Grateful for the opportunity. Grateful for the tawfiq to fast. Grateful for the blessing of the Quran. So after every salah, we should make the dua that Rabbi a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Oh my Lord, give me the ability, help me, assist me to do what? To remember you and to thank you and to worship you in the most beautiful way. So we learn in this ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made fasting an obligation upon all of us. And He hasn't just given us certain rituals that we have to practice, but He has given us the Quran as well, which makes a deep connection, which connects us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The month of Ramadan is the month of Quran, in which we recite the Quran. We listen to the Quran. We study the Quran. Why? To strengthen our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because remember again, that if a person is just hungry, he's just thirsty, and he's not improving spiritually, how is he really going to develop taqwa? How? Maybe a little bit, but he's not going to get the full benefit of the fast, unless and until he benefits from the Quran at the same time as well. Let's listen to the recitation. You notice how it has been said that Allah wants ease for you and He doesn't want difficulty for you, but He wants you to complete the number. He wants you to complete the number. That is a must. You have to go through that training. You have to. It is a must. And also if you think of it, if a person is allowed to not fast in the month of Ramadan because of sickness or because of whatever reason, and he makes up those fasts at another time of the year. So for example, if the month of Ramadan fell in the summer, and he makes up the missed fasts in the winter, then isn't there ease for him? Of course there is. So Allah wants ease for us. He does not want difficulty for us. But He wants to make it very clear to us that we have to complete the number. We have to go through the training. We don't have a choice with regards to that. We see over here the mercy of Allah, the compassion of Allah, that He hasn't just given us a command and left it to us to deal with the problems ourselves. He knows about the problems that we go through, and He knows what is possible for us, what is not possible for us. So He has given us the allowance. We learn from the end of the ayah, وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, that you be grateful to Allah for the opportunity and the ability to fast. Because many times when we do a good deed, we give the credit to ourselves. It's me. But if it wasn't for the tawfiq of Allah, how would you be able to fast? You wouldn't have been able to. Just as in dunya, if you want to get a particular job, you have to get the training. And that training requires sometimes 6 months of training, sometimes 2 months of training, sometimes a year of training. And it's not that they want to make your life difficult for you. You have to go through the training to be able to do the job. Similarly, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made fasting mandatory upon us, it is not for our difficulty. It is for our training. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. We see that fasting is one of the actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And He rewards for fasting the way He does not reward for other good deeds, as we learn from that hadith. And we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not just left it to us to fast when we want to and not fast when we don't want to. He has made it an obligation on us. He has made it a point that we must do that which He loves. Ramadan is a very special time which brings special benefits. So we should take advantage of those benefits. One of the big benefits of Ramadan is that the shayateen, they're chained up, they're locked up. So you have time to just focus on yourself and your training. This ayah in particular, it shows us the importance of spending Ramadan with the Quran. Spending Ramadan with the Quran. Whether it is reciting the Quran, or it is reciting the Quran in Salah, or it is attending the Taraweeh Salah, because the month of Ramadan is the month of Quran. Shahru Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. And Quran is what gives you the Furqan. So, in this month, go through the Quran at least once, so that you can build that Furqan in yourself. We have been told that if you fast, that is much better for you. Why? Because fasting leads to taqwa. That is the objective. So He wants us to fast so that we get taqwa. Whoever stays away from food for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake, when he's fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps his face away from the hellfire. A distance of how much? 70 years? وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي. And when my servants ask you about me. سَأَلَكَ. Sa'ala is from Sin, Hamza, Lam. And ibadi is the plural of abd. Abd is a worshipper, ibad, worshippers. And notice how Allah says, my servants. When my servants ask you. Remember that everyone is Allah's servant. Everyone. Whether they admit, whether they acknowledge or not. Whether they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. Everyone is abd of Allah. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls some people His abd, like over here, ibadi, my servants, then it shows the special connection. Then it shows that these servants are special servants. They're not ordinary servants, they're special servants. They're those special servants who worship Allah, who really are the true slaves of Allah. And who are they? Those who believe in Allah and those who worship Allah. So when my servants ask you, and who does you refer to? The Prophet ﷺ. What do they ask you? Anni, about me. Anni is a combination of an, meaning from, about, and ya, meaning me. So anni, about me. What does it mean by when they ask you about me? This has been understood in several ways. Some have said that this means they ask about me as to where I am. There were some people who asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ayn Allah, where is Allah? So what's the response? فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, indeed I am near. Others have said that anni, about me, what this means is about my qurb, about my nearness, that how close I am, or how far I am. Which is why we learn that some of the companions, they asked the Prophet ﷺ, is our Lord nearby? So that we should talk to Him secretly, so that we should talk to Him quietly in a whisper tone? Or is He far away, so that we should call out to Him and speak loudly? So some people, they asked the Prophet ﷺ this. And in particular, they said that it was a Bedouin man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him this question. That is our Lord nearby, so I should talk to Him, in a whisper tone, or is He very far, so that I have to shout out to Him? Speak loudly, so that He can hear me. He was a Bedouin man. He wanted to know, can Allah hear me or do I have to speak loudly? Can He hear my whispers or do I have to talk loudly? Simple, very simple man. Similarly, it has been said that once a group of the Jews, they said to the Prophet ﷺ that you say that Allah is above, He's very high above, and there are 7 heavens between. So how is it possible that He can hear your dua? So, when these things were said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed that when my servants ask you about me, then tell them, فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, that indeed I am near. I am close. What does it mean by the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is near? Meaning He is near and He is close in His knowledge, in His hearing. So that there is no need to shout. There is no need for anyone else in between. He is near to you. You don't need anyone else in between. You can directly speak to Allah. You can directly pray to Allah. And remember that qareeb over here does not mean physically. But what it means is that in His knowledge, in His awareness, in His listening, and how close is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, we learn from the Quran, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We are closer to Him than His jugular vein. We are closer to the human being, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to the human being than the jugular vein. Again, not in the physical sense, but in His knowledge, in His awareness, in how well He knows us. That He knows about what we say, what we shout, what we whisper, what we just keep in our hearts, the thoughts that are in our heads. Inni qareeb. I am near. I am very close. I'm not far away. So you don't need to put in so much effort to shout. It is reported, Imam Ahmad, he reported that Abu Musa al-Ashari, he said, that we were in the company of Allah's Messenger during a battle. Whenever we climbed up a high place, we went up a hill, or went down a valley, we used to say, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the most great, raising our voices. Meaning we would say it out very loud. And the Prophet ﷺ, he came by us and he said, O people, be merciful to yourselves. Meaning don't shout out, don't raise your voices so much. For you're not calling a deaf or an absent one. You're not calling out on someone who is deaf or someone who is absent. But you're calling out on someone who is all hearer and all seer. He is as-Samir and He is also al-Basir. The one whom you call is closer to one of you than the neck of his animal. A person who is riding his animal, the neck is so close. Just imagine you're driving your car. The wheel is in your hands. It's very close to you. So the one whom you call is closer to one of you than the neck of his animal. So we learn from this ayah and from the hadith that I've mentioned to you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not far. He is very close to us in His knowledge, in His hearing. When we call out to Him, He hears. When we do something, He sees. When we feel something, He knows. When we're going through something, He knows, He watches. From another hadith we learn, which is also reported in Musnad Ahmad, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي وَأَنَا مَعَهُ إِذَا دَعَانِي. I am as my servant thinks of me, and I am with him whenever he invokes me, whenever he makes mention of me. So when you remember Allah, Allah is qareeb. Ujibu, I respond. Ujibu is from the root letters Jim, Waw, Ba, Jawab. I respond. To what? To da'wata, to the call of who? Of ad-da'i, of the caller. Da'wat ad-da'i. Who is the da'i? Da'i is any person who makes dua to Allah, who prays to Allah. So I respond to the call of the caller when إِذَا دَعَانِي, when he calls who? Me. You notice the ni at the end? It indicates me. I respond to the call of the caller when he calls me. إِذَا دَعَانِي is noticeable. It should be paid attention over here. When we make dua, what do we want? That our dua should be heard, it should be responded to immediately, right away. But notice Allah says, I respond to the call of the caller when? When he calls me. Meaning when he truly and sincerely calls upon me. When he calls upon me with trust, with confidence. When he realizes that he is in need of me. When he realizes that I am able to respond to his request. When the servant calls me, then I respond to his call. So we see over here that there are several conditions that need to be fulfilled in order for a person's dua to be responded to. And what are those conditions? That first of all, the dua should be made with sincerity. It should be made with sincerity. Meaning a person is really making dua to Allah He's not making dua to others. Secondly, it should be made consciously, with consciousness, while being alert. Mean it. When you're making the dua, mean it. When a person is really truthful in his dua, when he fulfills that condition, then the dua is accepted. Similarly, another condition is of humility, of tadarru', of making yourself small, of making yourself humble, saying, "Oh Allah, I need you. I need your assistance. I am nothing without you. I need your forgiveness." Making yourself small, showing humility. Then, another condition is of fear, that a person should also fear and respect Allah at the same time. He should respect Allah at the same time. He should not be disrespectful. Sometimes when we're asking others for something, we become very disrespectful, we become very frank. And some people go to the extent of doing this even with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, "Oh Allah, I've prayed so much, please grant me already, please give me already." No, this is incorrect. This is not the proper etiquette. It should be with respect. It should be with fear. And similarly, another condition is that a person should be obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He should be in obedience to Allah. You cannot be committing sins, eating haram, and expect that your du'as are answered. So we see that إِذَا دَعَانِي, when a person truly makes a dua to Allah, then his dua is granted. The Prophet ﷺ said, the supplication of the servant will be accepted. The dua of the servant will be accepted as long as he does not supplicate for what includes sin. So the dua should also be correct. It should also be realistic. It should also be proper. For example, a person says, "Oh, I've been making dua that I should be made the president of the US. I'm a woman, but I want to be the president of the US. I've been making this dua." I mean, it's not a realistic dua. First of all, you're not a US citizen. Secondly, you're a woman. It should be realistic. Similarly, you cannot do that you don't study anything and you make dua, "Oh Allah, make me pass my exams." It has to be realistic. It has to be relevant. It should be proper. You're making dua to Allah. Have some respect. So, the hadith is that the supplication of the servant will be accepted as long as he does not supplicate for what includes sin. For example, a person might say, "Allah, I really want to eat something haram or drink something haram." People wish for other people's death. "Oh Allah, make this person die." Why? Simply because you don't get along with them. So as long as a supplication does not include that which is sinful, or cutting the relations of the womb, cutting the blood ties, and as long as the person does not become hasty, as long as a person does not become hasty. The Prophet ﷺ was asked, "O Messenger of Allah, how does a person become hasty?" And he said that a person says, "I supplicated and I supplicated. I made dua and I made dua again and again and again. But I do not see that my supplication is being accepted from me." If a person becomes hasty, if a person becomes impatient, and then he abandons making dua, then what happens? What happens? The dua is not accepted. So we see that there are conditions for the dua to be accepted. Now the question is that how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond to the dua? Because over here Allah says, "Ujibu," I respond. How does Allah respond to the dua? Is it that the dua is answered exactly how a person has made the dua? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, remember. We learn from a hadith that is reported in Musnad Ahmad, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that no Muslim supplicates to Allah with a dua that does not involve sin or cutting the relations of the womb, but Allah will grant him one of the three things. If the dua is proper, it is appropriate, it is realistic, it does not involve any sin, it does not involve any cutting the blood ties, then the dua is going to be responded to. How? In three ways. What are they? That Allah will either hasten the response to his supplication, meaning Allah will give him what he's asking for in the dunya right away, or that He will save it for him until the hereafter. Allah will save it for him until the hereafter. What does that mean? That the dua will not be responded to in the dunya. He will not get it in the dunya. but all that reward for making the dua, that will be preserved for him, for the hereafter. Remember, dua is ibadah. Every time that you make dua, you're worshipping Allah. And if your dua is not answered, you make dua again, and you continue to do so. So all of that reward is retained for when? Is kept for when? For the hereafter. And the third is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would turn an equivalent amount of evil away from him. Allah turns away evil of equivalent amount. You never know what evil might be coming your way. But just because of your dua, which is a good deed, that evil is averted. That evil is not sent your way. So, the people asked the Prophet ﷺ, what if we were to recite more dua? Meaning, what if we were to make more dua? What if we were to continue to make more dua? And we don't stop making dua? He said, there is more with Allah. Allah doesn't have less. There is more with Allah. Allah doesn't have less. It depends on you. You keep making dua, Allah will either grant it to you, or He will keep the reward for you in the hereafter, or He will save you from some harm that is coming your way. You make as much dua as you want, and Allah has more than that for you. It's up to you. How much do you want? Really, it's up to us. How much do we want? فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. So they should respond to me. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. And they should also believe in me. They should respond to me, and they should also believe in me. This is what we're supposed to do. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا again is from Jim Wawba. They should give jawab to Allah. And remember, jawab is to respond to someone. What does it mean by responding to someone? Answering them, listening to them, doing what they're telling you to do. So Allah is qareeb to us. He knows us. He hears us. Even if you whisper out a dua, or even if you don't say it out, it's in your heart. Allah knows. Allah hears. And Allah responds to the dua of the caller when he makes the dua. So what should the people do? They should also respond to Allah. If you want Allah to respond to your dua, you should respond to the call of Allah. There are two du'as. One du'a is what the servant makes to Allah, which is a request, a supplication. And there is another du'a, which is a call that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes to the people, which is of commands. If you want your du'a to be answered, answer the du'a of Allah. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. And what it means by responding to Allah over here is submitting to Allah, obeying Allah. Because responding to someone means listening to them, obeying them. So فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. They should also listen to me, they should obey me. And وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. They should believe in me, meaning they should trust in me. They should believe that I am qareeb. They should believe that I respond. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. And they should believe in me. So we see that listening or responding to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does it mean by that? What does it mean by that? Refraining from disobeying Him. Listening or responding to Allah means refraining from disobeying Him, continuing to obey Him. So if you want Allah to respond to your dua, then you have to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? By obeying Him and by refraining from disobeying Him. And also, we should trust upon Allah that He is the one who truly answers our du'as. He is the one who responds to our du'as. We should have this firm conviction. We should have this firm trust upon Allah. I am making dua to Allah. Who is Allah? خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, creator of everything. He just has to say, kun fayakun. He is the one who is qadir. He is the one who is alim. Can He not grant me my wish? Of course He can. All He has to do is just say kun. Just kun. It's not difficult for Him at all. So when you make dua with confidence, with iman, with trust, the more conviction a person has, the more chances there are of the dua being accepted. Remember that hadith? That I am as my servant thinks I am. I am as my servant thinks I am. If you think positive of Allah, Allah will be positive towards you. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ, so that they obtain guidance. The word yarshudun is from the root letters Ra, Sheen, Dal, Rushd. And what does Rushd mean? Guidance. Right way. Hidayah is also guidance. Rushd is also guidance. How is it different? It is said that Rushd is to adopt the correct way. It is to adopt the way of Hidayah and to stay firm upon it. What does it mean? To adopt the way of Hidayah and then become firm upon it. It's not just to, okay, you know what the right thing is, but you don't do it. Or you do it once or twice and you leave it the rest of the time. No. Rushd is to adopt the correct way and become firm upon it. And along with this, Rushd is to develop and maintain good habits as well. What does it mean? To develop and maintain good habits as well. So we see that Rushd is istiqamah. It is perseverance on guidance, on Hidayah. And remember that gaining knowledge or knowing about Hidayah is one thing. But adopting the Hidayah and becoming firm on the Hidayah, developing good habits, maintaining those good habits, that is a challenge. And for that we need the help of Allah. What does Allah say? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. They should believe in me. They should respond to me. Why? So that they are rightly guided. Is there anything? Is there any habit that you want to develop? Any good habit? Any part of the deen that you want to develop? Is there anything of the deen that you want to do but you haven't been able to do so far? And not just of the deen, even of the dunya. Even of the dunya. Because rushd is not just with regards to matters of deen. It is with regards to the matters of dunya as well. There are so many things that we want to do, we want to accomplish, we want to develop good habits. A simple thing such as, staying up in the morning, or reading the Quran every single day, or only speaking the truth. Whose help do we need? Allah's help. What does Allah say? Make dua to me. Continue to obey me. Have trust in me when you're making dua, and you will be guided. You will be helped. You will be assisted. It is also said that rushd is husnut tasarruf. It is to do something in the best manner. What does it mean? To do something in the best manner. So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ, meaning so that they can have a beautiful lifestyle. They can live a very good life. They can live the best possible life. Remember that this dunya is full of difficulties. It is full of challenges. There are so many situations and we don't know what to do. We're completely lost. We find ourselves in so much trouble sometimes. We don't know what to do. We want to do good things at a particular time. We're unable to do them. It's our nafs that comes in the way. Whose help do we need? Allah's help. So if you want the help of Allah, what should you do? Make dua so that you are rightly guided. So that you can live a life of obedience. So that your ibadah becomes beautiful. So that your dealings become beautiful. Your manner becomes beautiful. Your etiquette becomes beautiful. Your lifestyle becomes beautiful. And what does it mean by beautiful? That which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala approves of. So remember that dua is essential. Dua is essential. For what? For what? For hidayah. For rushd. Because over here, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشِدُونَ is a reason that is being given for what? For praying to Allah, for making dua to Allah. With sincerity, with conviction. And connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can only be maintained through dua. Can only be developed and it can only be maintained through dua. Many times we focus on reciting the Quran. We focus on praying the salah. But we don't bother to make dua. Really, we don't bother to make dua. If there's a problem, we tell everybody about it. And we forget to make dua. Who is it that can really help us? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. If you want hidayah, if you want to know what the best possible option is for you in this situation, if you want to know what you should do, then make dua to Allah. Cry in front of Him, not others. Present your situation in front of Him, not others. Let's listen to the recitation. If you notice, this ayah is mentioned in the middle of what? What's the context? Fasting, Ramadan. So Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and Ramadan is a month of worship, and dua is the essence of worship. When a person is fasting, he should make a lot of dua, especially at the time of breaking the fast. It is also said that with regards to this ayah, when it was revealed, that some people, they asked the Prophet ﷺ, is there any specific special time in which we should make dua to Allah so that He can respond to us? And then this ayah was revealed that وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي. I respond to the call of the caller whenever he makes dua to me, as long as the dua fulfills the conditions. But we know that one of the times when the chances of dua being accepted is after performing an act of worship. The entire day you've been worshipping Allah by fasting. So take the opportunity, benefit from the opportunity, and make dua. Sometimes what happens is that we're busy at that time because the food is not ready, we're still finishing off preparing the food. So at that time, what should you do? Even when you're doing other things, talk to Allah in your heart. Inni qareeb. He's close. He can hear you even when you're making dua in your heart. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ, so that they're rightly guided with regards to every matter of their lives. Every situation. Our lives are not free from difficulties and problems. They're full of difficulties. Pray to Him. The Sahaba, they would pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for even, a shoelace. Simple thing as a shoelace. If that is lost, if that is broken, what are you going to do? Complain and scream and shout and that's it? No. Just make dua to Allah. With iman, with confidence, with trust. And He will respond in some way or the other. And if you're not granted your dua, at least you get the reward. Isn't that something good?